make us, it's made us think. They're waiting now to hear what the governor has to say. So 3 documents, and we just got most of the pieces to these documents in the last 2 weeks. So that's why we're still going through them and trying to figure out how best to work through some things. I'm going to do the share screen here for a moment. I'm going to go to a website, and of course it's one you're all familiar with. It's our district website. I just want to show you where you can find all of our COVID-19 return to learn is what we're calling our back to school plan documents. So if you go to our main page here, you can see right down here on every page on campus, whether it's West Elementary, middle, or high, it all has this black box on the right-hand side that says COVID-19 plan. If you click on it, it goes to a document that I'm updating regularly. You can see all the different pages there on the black bar on the right side. But then if you go to the bottom of the page, you can see I have 4 draft documents. And I'm going to go over each of these in parts tonight. I've got the calendar I want to talk about, which is the first one. We've got a summary table of the difference between on-campus, in-person, or remote, or what we're calling online or virtual learning or instruction. And then we've got the on-campus health response plan. It's just an overview of this last document you can see there. The last one there, the response plan, it's about a 30-page document. And so it's kind of where we are with all things back to school. And then we've created some training documents for you tonight that can help generate some discussion and kind of give you an outline of what we're working on. So I'm going to go through these so you're not going to hurt my feelings if you're looking at those as I talk. I'll tell you which one we're on when that time comes so that you can see what we're thinking for our back to school plan right now. So I'm going to stop the share feature and come back to me. Wanted to let you know that the survey from June 25th, we got almost 700 responses, which is a lot for a survey for West ISD. So I was super pumped we heard back from so many of you guys. And that doesn't even count any pre-Kers or new to West ISD families. Out of those almost 700, we only had 72 say they were interested in remote or home learning. It's mostly, if you look at the numbers, it's heavy elementary. There were 43, and then 12 at middle school and 16 at high school. And we only had 2 families share that they had moved and weren't coming back. Of course, that's not all of our kids and all of our families, but it kind of gave us an idea of where we are with having to prepare our 2 learning plans on campus and remote instruction as we move forward into August. I wanted to start with some calendar news. If you're looking at the documents page, if you'll pull up the calendar, and again, it's draft. It's the usual template, and I was just sharing where it is on our website. If you head back there, I wanted you to hear a couple of thoughts on where we are with our calendar and why the one we had previously approved isn't the best plan for where we are with the start of school now heading into August of 2020. First off, I wanted to make sure you knew that Commissioner Morath really threw a curveball at us a couple of weeks ago, it was about 4 weeks ago, when we learned that we no longer had to have a calendar that was all about banking makeup days. Meaning if we had days where we were out due to COVID-19 cases, we were under the impression that, hey, there's nothing we could do to make them up until we added them somewhere in our calendar. June or July, it just means we'd go further into the summer. So we crafted a calendar, and you probably saw my video on YouTube. It was really long, and I'm sure it was a snooze fest. But in that video, I was explaining our goal of trying to have 20 days in that calendar as makeup days. Well, the commissioner said we didn't have to make up the days any longer if we were ready to go with our remote instruction plan at home if we had a school closure. He said that we could count those days as school days if we had kids up and going on our virtual plan. And so with that news, that was a game changer, that we no longer had to have the 20 days or the 4 weeks. We could really look at what was best for kids and still have the holiday breaks. We could still get out before Memorial Day. And the only reason why we would have to add days at the end of the year was if we had closures that were greater than the number of makeup days we still had on our calendar and we weren't doing at home or remote instruction. And so our calendar is looking way better. We're not even doing the plan now where school starts super early. We're not counting the instructional minutes starting, for example, at 7:30 that we were looking at in order to bank for those 20 days. Remember when I talk about a calendar, and I'll use the number of 187 days a lot in my presentation, and remember that's a teacher contract period. And so no matter what calendar we create, even if it has 5 weeks of holidays, it's got to have 187 days with kids or of training for teachers, work days, you know, where they're getting stuff ready. You can't count Christmas and all those kind of things. So the minute you start your calendar, it starts adding up to those 187 days. And so we had a long discussion about how we can still meet our goals of let's get the kids to school, but also think about that ending date in May and how can we best spread out everything across our 4 grading periods. So briefly, the proposal before our board is to start school earlier. Originally, we had a Wednesday, August 19th date, and we believe whatever the state says, we need to get back in school to get the kids going on some of the protocols and trainings that are required for our COVID-19 plan, some orientation pieces, drills, and things we need to do. And so we decided to move school to Monday, August 17th, so just 2 days earlier. And so we're looking at a start date of August the 17th. September, October, November, December, the only difference in the fall semester is the fall break is no longer on the calendar. We just couldn't have those days, stay holidays in the middle of October and still keep 5 days at Thanksgiving and the long Christmas break. And so I think you'll all agree having 5 days at Thanksgiving and the 2 full weeks at Christmas are, if we had to prioritize, that's the way to go. We did do an early release day at the end of the first grading period, so the kids could get out and teachers could get their grades in. If we needed a meeting or work time, we could get that done, even contact some parents. When you're looking in the spring, there's only really 2 differences in the spring as well. We decided to make Tuesday, January 5th, an instruction day. So instead of coming back on Wednesday the 6th, the kids will come back on Tuesday the 5th. All right, then everything's still in there. MLK Appreciation Day, President's Day, full week at spring break, Good Friday, all those things are still there. And then our last day of school is different. Instead of it being Friday, May 21st, we're looking at Wednesday, May 26th. All right, so, and it's even an early release day. So a couple of changes. So if you're following along, I know that was a lot. We grabbed 2 days at the start of school, 1 day in January, and then we extended school 2.5 days in May. And all those changes get us to 7 banked days for makeup days in case we need them for any reason when we don't have remote instruction going. The other big change, and this one will lead to some questions, we wanted to ensure, because of the number of kids that may be asking for home or virtual, what the state's calling remote instruction, we got to make sure our teachers, we're a small district, we don't have a lot of kids asking for remote instruction where, for example, one teacher could become just the remote instruction teacher. It's a few kids at every grade level through our entire system, pre-K through grade 12. All the grade levels, for example, at elementary have about the same number of 7 to 10 kids. So there's not the opportunity to say, hey, this teacher, Mrs. Adams, can be the remote instruction online teacher only, meaning that's her only job. And so we had to rethink how we could get this done where we were engaging families and getting on Google Hangouts with the kids and posting lessons and doing videos and recording lessons from the day to post for the remote learners. And the suggestion of where we're at is adding that time to our school day, or really to the work day for teachers, and that would require our dismissal time to shrink a little bit at the end of the day. Now, before anyone panics about that, we only are looking at changing our elementary time. Normally it's 7:45 to 3:30. We're looking at 7:45 to 3. And then secondary would be 8 to 3:15 instead of 3:45. And how that will impact you, it's how we do dismissal. It's about 15 minutes or so earlier, depending upon when you arrive to pick up your kids. We're still having our after-school programs. We'll still have some form of a YMCA. We're looking at, of course, continuing with our extracurriculars. Really, very few folks will be impacted by that, just depending upon when you arrive to get your kids. With the bus piece and things, a couple of things will be moved up there. So that's one piece of the calendar as well. STAR testing right now is still on the calendar. Kids will still be taking tests. And so instructional days were very important in this calendar decision as well. And also having a robust and strong summer program in the months of June and maybe even in July. So right now, that's our proposal for the calendar. Again, I talked about those 6 days that changed with the new start date of August the 17th. I talked about our dismissal time changing and getting more, really I should have said earlier, in line with the rest of the Waco area. I don't know if you know, families, but our school day is one of the longest in the Waco area. And so we had a little wiggle room just for the 2021 school year to look at those times and see what we could do with helping kids and doing intervention groups, and if we need another dyslexia group. But if we've got to provide, as the state's requiring us to provide instruction for all kids, whether they're at home or in the building, we have to have time in the day to do it right. And I'm the first one to admit we did the best job we could last March through May, but I think most of you will agree it wasn't ideal. And we need to up the level of fidelity with ensuring that our campus plan and our at-home plan mirror each other in a way that the kids will master whatever the TEKs are for their grade level for that school year. And so we want to make sure that we've got the time built in to help all kids if they're at home or in the building. And so that's our calendar. I don't see any chat questions about the calendar. If you're wondering how to chat, if you're not a Zoom user, it's there in the bottom of your screen with the little bubble where you can type in something if you'd like for me to answer. But right now I'm not seeing anything down there. If you have calendar questions, when we get to a break here, we'll stop and you can throw those out at us by unmuting. I'm going to shift to Coach Woodard. I just wanted him to share an update on how summer conditioning's going and anything else he wants to share about our UAL plans for now. So take it away, the best coach in America.
There we go. Now I think I'm unmuted. Thanks, Mr. Truitt. Summer conditions have been going well. Just real proud of the kids and how hard they're working to follow the guidelines that we have, that the UAL has imposed on us. And so it's been tough, but the coaches and the kids have done a great job. As Mr. Truitt said earlier, the UAL hasn't released their plan for the fall. So as of right now, we're anticipating, we're just moving along like the fall is going to be start as normal. So not sure that it is, probably pretty much sure that it's not actually. And so I assume with the governor's announcement that the UIL will follow suit tomorrow and impose some things on us and give us a lot more guidance on exactly what we're allowed to do this fall, continuing through our summer workouts and getting started into football, volleyball, and cross country, and possibly even what some things may look like for the rest of the year. A couple of things I did want to talk to you about is navigating our athletic website. Sometimes I don't have access to be able to put stuff on the main page, and so I put a lot of stuff on our athletic website. The best way to get to that is to, when you go to our westisd.net, go to choose a school and pick either West Middle School or West High School, whichever one you need, and click on that sport. And that coach or I have put, for example, the high school football schedule and the middle school football schedule and all that stuff for normal seasons already on our football website. And on our high school website, there's already a football practice calendar that'll probably be changed, I'm sure. And so, but be able to navigate those sites to be able to find those things, I'll put a lot of information there, especially now that I don't get a chance to talk to the kids every day and give them things. So go from there. Also, there's a tab under both of those called athletic forms where you can find a lot of calendars and all our summer workout forms and our summer workout calendars and our the UIL participation forms that all the kids have to have filled out before the beginning of school. And so the big thing is we work really hard to try to put as much stuff on our website as we can. I know Ms. Prodka helps a ton being able to put stuff on our social media accounts through our school. Mr. Truitt does as well. And I try to put a lot of stuff on my personal Twitter and Instagram account. And so there's always a way to get information. And if you ever have any questions, please feel free to email me. I have it where it pops up on my phone all the time, so a lot of times I can answer those back pretty quickly. And so here's hoping to a normal school year in terms of everything we've got going on. But understand, like Mr. Truitt said, everything right now is a draft, and it's a fluid situation, and we do expect a number of changes between now and the time that our activities are supposed to start. So that's really all I have. I appreciate Mr. Truitt allowing us to be on. I appreciate each and every one of you being on to take interest in what we're trying to do and the best thing that we can do for all our kids here at West ISD.
Thank you, Coach Woodard. We're looking forward to many championship seasons this year. Appreciate your help. All right, I'm going to move to a document. I want to make sure you are all following along. I'm going to go back to the share screen and back to the websites. Again, for those of you that may be joined after I did this, I'm on the main page of our website. Down here, this COVID-19 planning box. I'm going to throw everything I can onto these web pages. Down here at the bottom, I already talked about this calendar. This is the draft that I was going over a moment ago. And then right below it, the summary table document is what Ms. Adams is going to go over next. We tried to make a document that was just a few pages that explained the differences and similarities between on-campus or in-person instruction and remote or virtual at-home instruction. It ended up being 4 pages, and this is just, again, a draft, but it shows you the complexities of running two plans at once. But we're required to do it from the state, and we're up for it as a district, and we're going to do everything we can to make this a successful ride for whichever route our families pick. I just wanted to make sure you guys all knew, again, if you're following our social media, I've been posting about the window for new and returning student enrollment is next Monday, the 20th. And the very first question when you update it, if you're returning, or you get on if you're a new, is, are you going to go with on campus or remote? And so how can we possibly ask that question without you having some information about how it's going to look? And so that's one of the reasons for the Zooms tonight and this document that Mrs. Adams is going to go over. It's probably the piece that's going to have the most questions. So let us know what you've got through the chat. We'll stop when we get through it and just see what folks have. Again, it's posted. You can call, you can come by and see us, whatever you need as far as information goes to check that box when you get on Skyward. We want to make sure we can help you with. And know you can change your mind. If you get further into the summer based on what Governor Abbott says and you want to try something new, no problem. It's not like you click it once and it's that forever. And Mrs. Adams is even going to talk about how that works. So I'm going to let Ms. Adams take over. I'll be looking at the chat room. If you have questions, particularly about our school health plan for on-campus, we're going to cover that right after Ms. Adams goes, so you can see all the many different layers that we're adding to help protect our kids if they're in our buildings. So this is the instructional teaching piece. So take it away, Mrs. Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Truitt. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm hoping that's going to work. Mr. Truitt, does that look good? Okay. This is the document that Mr. Truitt was referring to. It compares our on-campus versus remote instruction plan. We thought it was important to share with you what they look like. It is very different than what you would experience, what you have experienced in our March to May home learning. There's some very specific things that we need to talk about, especially being that all our on-campus and remote learners are going to be responsible for learning the same content. So that's very different than what we did in March through May, whereas we were just trying to not have a slide of information and lose instruction. This is moving forward, whether you're in person or online, the students and the teachers are responsible for the whole gamut of learning. So looking at this document, we're just going to kind of read through it together. Please put your questions in the chat and we'll be sure to answer those. So first day of instruction, whether you're remote or on campus, is going to be August 17th. So that day, if you're a remote learner, you will sign into the system. You will have been explained, we'll have training and things for you and your student to be able to be very comfortable with what you're supposed to do on the first day of school. Whether you're on campus in the traditional setting or you're doing remote, that'll be August 17th. Enrollment process, Mr. Truitt kind of hit on just a little bit. That process is going to start next Monday. And the first question that you're going to see on that online registration is, are you going to choose to be a on-campus student or a remote instruction student? This chart will also be on that registration, so you can review the chart before making the choice at the bottom of that page. So this year, because of the situation, we're doing all of our registration online. There are no paper forms. The only paper that you need to bring to the school is your proof of residency. So more information about that will be on our back to school toolkit, but everything you do will be online as far as registration other than that proof of residency. So the purpose of the initial selection where you let us know what you're thinking is so that we can figure out the class rosters, you know, who's going to be on campus versus remote, and prepare our teachers and students for that. The location, of course, for on-campus learning is your traditional on-campus situation, whatever campus your student is assigned to. If you're a remote learner, of course, you're going to be allowed to learn wherever it best works for your student and they have access to the internet. So to be able to be a remote learner, you're also going to need to go through an orientation, as I mentioned earlier, so that you and your student are very comfortable with what you're going to be doing each day in online remote learning. I alluded to this earlier, but the content you'll see on this chart here under content is the same. The same lessons, the same activities, the same tests will be utilized whether you're on campus or in remote. Due to the challenges of offering some courses, several traditional courses and courses listed in last May's course selection that you may have gotten if you're a secondary student may not be offered just because of the challenge of offering that class remotely. So we're doing our best to mirror that, but of course all core classes and most other classes are being offered with few cuts we're having to make. Remote students will be using what's called a lockdown browser when they take a test. You may be familiar with that. It allows them only to go to the test, no other online formats or anything like that while they're taking the test. So we do have that. If you are going to have a remote student, they will be using a lockdown browser. They also will have to take the STAR test, as Mr. Truitt mentioned, and will have to either come to a designated site is what we think is going to happen. TA has not given us another option for that other than coming to a site to take that test. So more information to come as that's released. It's kind of an ever-changing piece. Let me scroll down here. So how remote instruction is going to look, I've already said that it's going to be the same, just remotely. What's going to happen is all of our teachers are going to become remote learning teachers as well as on-campus teachers. So what they'll do is they video their lesson, their mini lesson, their piece of their lesson that they directly teach the students. And then they'll upload that to our learning management system. The name of that is Schoology if you're not familiar. And in Schoology, you'll have their video. They'll also have activities, they'll have their assignments for the day, and when it's time, they'll have their tests. Also, all in that LMS. So we use Schoology for that. We also have a program called Classlink. It's the umbrella. So you may be familiar if you've used it with us last year. We give each student a login for Classlink and all of their apps that they need for every instructional system that we use online are in Classlink. And so we'll have orientation on that as well. So the next piece about content specifically is that some of our courses that are electives, such as career and technology and agriculture, will not be offered remotely. So that's a big decision for you as a family. We'll not be able to offer every single course remotely. So several remote instruction elective courses will be offered through a program called Edgenuity, which means they will not actively see their teacher. They will do that program all online. So that's for some of our harder to switch over to remote courses. So if you have any concerns about that, you can contact the campus and we can talk through that for your student. Mainly in secondary is what we're talking about. High school, a lot of the high school CTEs and agriculture, fine arts, things like that, we have to make decisions on what can be switched over to remote. As I mentioned earlier, the delivery of instruction, whether they're a remote learner or an on-campus learner, they will have a West ISD certified teacher. So if your student is signed up for a course, other than those I mentioned earlier that are the ones that are specialized, they will have a West ISD certified teacher teaching those. The schedule, of course, Mr. Truitt also mentioned this. If you're an on-campus learner, you can see on the screen here, the day at West Elementary is 7:45 to 3. The day at West Middle High School is 8 to 3:15. Here's where a big difference is for remote learners. Remote learners can complete each day's work on their own schedule, but it has to be within that day. The new guidelines that we're getting from TEA is that the attendance piece is required to be taken daily. So please note that we use Schoology to track that. So our learning management system, our online system, will take count of when the student is in the program. And that's how we'll be taking attendance. Students that are enrolled in remote instruction, you may choose to take your student to remote instruction at any time by letting the campus know. However, as it says here, students enrolled in remote, so you make that decision to move to remote, you cannot come back to on campus until the end of that grading period. So here are the dates that you're allowed to come back. If you choose remote, you can come back to on campus at one of the 3 dates listed here, which coincide with our report card periods. If you have a student that has accommodations, any of the students listed in these groups up here, gifted and talented, special education, etc., we will be offering the same accommodations that we would on campus remotely. For remote instruction, some of our accommodation services will be provided live. For example, if your student is in a dyslexia group, those will more than likely be provided live. So live instruction scheduled through their learning coach or their parent, who is their parent, and typically, and then they will also, sign in at the same time and be live and present with their dyslexia teacher, as an example. So they'll either be provided live as needed, or they could just be purposefully scheduled where they get a call from their teacher and work through things with them if they're in a special program. Definitely a layered approach where the adult learning coach, and I'll explain more about that in a minute, helps the student through that situation, working with the teacher that is in charge of that special student group. So a lot of communication there between the family and the teacher, but definitely they will get the same accommodations. As far as extracurriculars, we'll offer the extracurriculars as normal on campus based on what UIL programs and activities we're allowed to have as that comes out. But if you're a remote instruction student, and this is a big piece that we need to make sure everybody reads carefully and considers, remote instruction students are not allowed to participate in any in-person West ISD sponsored UIL programs or other extracurricular activities. The district's going to await direction from UIL and other activity officials on the final plan, but that's as of today. I mentioned already our software, so all the software that's available to our students is going to be available whether you're on campus or remotely. You do not have to be a remote learning student to take advantage of our software. We'll make that available to everyone. As you know, the hardware we have at our school, we have lots of opportunities for students to use laptops at all of the campuses. In fact, we're very excited that at West Middle and High School, sometime after Labor Day, we're going to be able to have a checkout system, whereas every 6th through 12th grader will be able to check out a Chromebook to use at school and at home. So that's a huge change in our textbook and instructional material policy. We're super excited to offer that to our students and think it will help both if you're an on-campus learner or a remote learner. So excited to offer that. If you're a remote learner, prior to us having those available after Labor Day, you can still check out a device if you need one. We will be doing that just like we did March through May and offer that to our families. Or you can use your own laptop if that works better for you. Okay, speaking specifically about internet, of course, at school, students are going to be able to use the West ISD Student Wireless Internet, but at home, remote instruction works best when they have a consistent high-speed broadband internet available. If you don't have that available, we're going to have at least one area where you can come and use our remote learning area, and we'll have a schedule out. So if you're in that situation, you can let us know when we talk if you choose remote learning, and we'll work through that together. Okay, we're now on grades. Grading for both on-campus and remote learning will be the same. So all the policies will be the same no matter you are on campus or you are at home. Attendance is one of those things too that's very different going into the new school year than it was prior to this year in the March to May period. Whether you're at home or on remote learning, you are going to be required to have 90% attendance. That rule has been re-invoked. And so we have to have attendance done daily, as I mentioned earlier. So your student, if they choose remote learning, will need to complete activities each day. That will be tracked, remember, as I said, through our learning management system, Schoology. And you have to have, if you're a remote learner, you have to have those attendance pieces, your assignments and activities into the system by 11:59 p.m. each night in order to get attendance. Because of that, truancy rules also apply. So I won't read that policy to you. It's the same policy. It just now applies to both in-person or remote learning. We've already talked about STAR testing, but I'll reiterate that no matter the instructional setting, we are required to give all STAR tests at this time for the coming year, as we have in the past. Remember that in grades 5 and 8, each student STAR test, whether you're a remote learner or online learner, remote or on campus, has to be considered for promotion. And if you're an EOC, end of course, STAR student in high school, those have to be considered for graduation. So just as you're considering which method works best for you, just want to make sure you make an informed decision that they will still be taking those STAR exams. The last thing I want to talk about, and I won't read all of this to you, but the parent and guardian role is huge if you're going to choose to be a remote learner for your student, if you're choosing that instructional setting. Not only are we looking forward to partnering with you if you're on campus, but all the things we partner together on with our parents to do on campus still stand for remote. But there are extra things as a parent or guardian that you have to be aware of if you choose to have your student become a remote instruction student. Each remote instruction student's parent or guardian is going to designate an adult as their learning coach. So every student who's a remote instruction student will have a learning coach. That's somebody you choose that's going to be responsible for ensuring the bullets that are listed on this document. So that learning coach is going to ensure that that student completes their daily activities in Schoology. They're going to maintain a learning log of the time spent on learning activities. So not only do we keep track of it on Schoology, our learning management system, but the learning coach will also keep notes of things like reading logs and times they worked on activities that were not online. So that's a huge role of the learning coach. But most importantly, especially for our young learners, as Mr. Truitt mentioned, we have several who have said they're interested in remote learning. Most importantly is that you have to, your learning coach will need to have very consistent contact with the teachers that the students are in their classes. So responding to the teacher and having communication with them by phone or email or even through a Zoom or a Google Meet will be another responsibility of the learning coach. So if you're considering remote instruction for your student, knowing that they're going to be responsible for all of the same activities and lessons and tests as an on-campus student, be thinking about who that learning coach would be for your student. We'll provide access to a staff member to troubleshoot any tech issues or issues that you have on the remote instruction piece. Each school day between 8 and 4, we also will continue to maintain a tech help email address, westtechhelp@westisd.net, and make available phone numbers for you to contact if you're having tech trouble. And then your learning coach will have instructional time and ask instructional questions to the teachers that your student is assigned to. Okay, that was a whole lot of talking, and I want to make sure that we're answering the chat questions. And
Ms. Adams, I've been answering as we've gone along. Most are doing them quickly. Let me see if some of these are good ones for everybody. Very few were sent to everyone. Got asked first about, well, first, thanks for the support there. We're getting some kudos. We got asked about how we're going to reduce the risk and social distance, and we'll talk about that here in a moment about masks and things. We got asked at what point can a family change plans. Ms. Adams mentioned that as a reminder. You can go to remote learning at any time, but to go from remote to on campus, you have to wait again until the end of a grading period. And so those dates Ms. Adams went over that's in that document, all of you guys have. We got asked about, let's see here. We got asked about if you're a remote learner, do you have to take STAR testing on the campus? And that's yes. You even heard Ms. Adams mention a testing center if it's needed for a remote learner. Can you be in band if you're a remote learner? Unfortunately, no. On campus for extracurriculars, if you think about it, guys, it kind of defeats the purpose going between them if we're at home versus on campus, but I think we'll get more guidance from the UIL as we move forward. They've already said it's allowed. Right now we're choosing to separate the two just from wishing the family's desires to have a remote plan versus on campus and not both. How will shutdowns work with learning? If we have to close a school or even a classroom due to a suspected or positive COVID-19 case, yes, that all the kids involved would move it immediately to remote instruction. And that's why we've got to have this running all year long, starting on day one. And it's why we're spending so much time laying this out and having staff, meaning all staff, dedicated to that plan, in addition to on campus, because we have to be able to do it at the drop of a hat and move everybody to that plan. I think that's about it. Most of the other ones were private or personal. There's a question, do you have to, if you're a remote instruction learner, do you have to have the work done by 4 p.m.? No, 4 p.m. is only if you need help from the teacher. We're not going to call the teacher, for example, at 10:59 p.m. The work has to be done daily by 11:59 p.m. because it's based on a per day analytical system where it's looking to see what you accomplished and how long you were in the system and what you were doing while you were on it. Mrs. Adams mentioned the minutes that the state's requiring in the day, which are much less than the on-campus but the teacher support piece ends when the on-campus school day ends. All right. If a student becomes sick for COVID, can they leverage e-learning options? Yes. If a kid comes up positive for COVID, is the whole class on quarantine? That's a tough question because it totally depends when it happened in the day and who they were around, and were they, you know, at the door when we did the temperature check and they never made it to the classroom, or did they make it all day and they felt bad, you know, at 3 o'clock? So that really depends on the situation. But why we're going to have the remote instruction plan ready is if it's 1 kid or 30 kids or 72 kids, we have to be ready. Second grade have iStation. We're switching to, what's it called? Ms. Cazada, I've forgotten the name of it. You're on mute, I'm sorry. Miss Adams, somebody?
We're moving from iStation to iReady, right, this school year.
So a new system, we listened to our parents and our kids and our staff, and they wanted to change, and we did a lot of research, and we're trying a new system, which we think we're going to get great results from. So it's called iReady, so no iStation. Is there a minimum amount of time? Will a remote learner have to be logged in? I don't have that document up, Miss Adams. What were the minutes targeted by grade level?
Okay, for full day pre-K, it's 180 minutes. K-5 is at 180 as well, and 6 through 12 is 240 instructional minutes.
So it'll track those minutes for that question. So you have to do that as a minimum. All right, we'll come back to some questions. Let's keep rolling. I'll try to answer some of these. Most of them are private. So Ms. Adams, will you answer those while I do the next segment? Let's switch roles. All right, I want to share, I'm going to go back to the sharing of a document so you can see which one we're on now. So I'm going to go back to the West ISD website. I'm going to close Ms. Adams. I'm going to the third one here. And I want to stress before I open this up, this is a 2-page summary of a 30-page document. If it's out there as far as health planning, we've talked it through and thought about it. And you name the space on the campus, we've got a plan that we're rolling out. Believe it or not, I know this is going to sound like a funny name for it, but Google this, the Swiss cheese approach to COVID-19 health planning. It really is a thing, and I love cheese, so this fits. Swiss cheese, think of it as layers. We don't have one approach. Think about the holes in the cheese and 5 pieces of cheese in a line, and each one of these layers hopefully combating or preventing or mitigating the spread of COVID on our campus. So it's not one size fits all. We are trying many things to help ensure our staff, students, and families are safe. So in this document that I'm going to pull up, I just wanted you to see that this particular information is just bullet points where I tried to highlight some information about things we're trying once school starts. So first and foremost, you've already heard Ms. Adams talk about that first bullet point, which is the remote learning. We have to have that in place starting on August 17th, because at any time we may have to move to remote learning. The next couple of bullet points deal with face coverings or face masks. I want to stress that even if the executive order right now from Governor Abbott wasn't in place, this one came back big time on our survey. So even if the governor wasn't asking for the masks, our parents and our staff are asking for masks. So I can't stress that enough. And of course, age appropriate. There's going to be circumstances in the day, like when you're eating, students are playing a band instrument, running maybe around the track, that they wouldn't have them on. So there are instances, of course, throughout the day where they wouldn't be required. But as you can see here, face coverings are required for all staff members in grades 4 and above. The state said age 10, and since 10 and above, and since that's grade 4, we didn't want half the class in masks and half not, kind of defeats the purpose. So we just went with a grade level where that age fell. And then you can see at pre-K through 3, it's encouraged. If we have a situation though with a student or a teacher that has a medical concern or a health concern, and if they request masks, we're going to do our best to meet that goal. And when we say a mask, we're going to have shields, we're going to have the surgical, we've got cloth ideas. I already saw a fundraiser for some Trojan ones. Y'all have seen driving around Waco, all the different types of things that are out there that fall into the facial covering spectrum. And so whatever's comfortable for your child, I suggest if you're doing on campus that you start getting them used to it more and more as build up for the start of school. But facial coverings was a big one for our community, and we're going to make sure that's in our school. The next one is what they're calling the personal protective equipment. You name it, we've bought it. Every classroom will have the face masks and shields available, tissues, gobs upon gobs of hand sanitizer, gloves, and wipes. Thermometers as well, forehead, also the sensor kind that are on like an iPad device on a stand. You name it, we've been researching it, making sure that we've got it for our kids and staff. The next one on there, and this is a biggie because this didn't even make it into the state guidelines. We are going to do daily temperature checks, and wherever you are on the spectrum of where those are, if it halts one student or staff member that has a fever from coming into the building, I think you'll all agree that it's worth having it in our Swiss cheese approach here. So whether it's getting on a bus or coming into the building, we're doing temperature checks. I've ordered 47 of them, they're already here. We've got the tablet version as well that will do the scan, and we're ready to roll. We'll do the screening form as well with the 10 symptoms and the 3 questions. There'll be posters all over our buildings. So whether you're a visitor, staff, or student, we're going to do it on a daily basis, and we'll get really good at it. At first, it'll take some time, but whenever you enter the building, whether it's for basketball practice or getting off a bus or parent drop-off, walker, biker, we're going to have stations at designated entryways where we're going to take care of that. And I think you'll all agree the masks and the temperature checks along with the screenings are musts. You can see next that we're kind of looking at some things as a closed campus. We're going to ask our parents for this year that if we need to have conferences, whether it's an ARD or maybe a teacher conference, maybe it's a meeting about prom, you name it, we're going to try to do it virtually like we're doing tonight. Phone calls, of course, are good. If you just have to do face-to-face, it needs to be pre-scheduled and not just a walk-in. So think of the campus as closed. I put in here the suspected and confirmed COVID cases. It's way more detail in the 30-page document that's attached to the website there. But I want you to see that we have a 3-step prong approach to help combat and mitigate COVID cases. You can see that it's not 14-day quarantine. It could be much longer depending upon if these goals are met. So you can see the 3 steps in there about having the 3 days passed since recovery. All the symptoms are gone. 10 days have passed since the symptoms first appeared. Medical professional is providing the documentation to come back and re-enter school. Testing 2 negative tests over more than a 24-hour period. So you can see there's a lot to track there, but our nurses are up for it, and I think you'll all agree we have a wonderful RN staff in West ISD. As we keep moving down the list here with those 3 points, we get to some things on page 2 I added about how we'll have daily, and even when I say daily, multiple. It's not just one time after school. If there's a conference period or a break or a transition, we're going to be cleaning. If I have to wipe down rooms, I'll wipe down rooms. We're going to clean restrooms, technology handrails, door handles, tables, chairs, you name it, we're going to disinfect and clean it. Special protocols have been put in place for every type of scenario in our building. We have spent days thinking about locker rooms and band halls and our flexible learning spaces and elevators and libraries, computer labs, and you can see in the 30-page document we have a section for each one of those and how we're going to combat those areas. We're looking at classroom furniture removal to help space out kids even in classrooms. We're looking at class size. For our secondary folks, we've had to look at class choices, master schedule choices. We can't offer things this year for 5 kids because we need things in our schedule to help get class size down for 6-12 and pre-K 5. They're working on reducing transitions. Ms. Costas has changed her schedule for specials and electives to help spread kids out. We've added a 5th, grade 2, and grade 4. We've got portables coming to give more space for the elementary. We are trying everything we possibly can do to help keep our kids safe and have a successful school year. The transitions for arrival and dismissal, Mr. Klander and Ms. Cosder are going to talk about that more in detail, but you can see about breakfast in the classroom and lunch in the classroom at the elementary and the high school and middle school are moving to 4 lunches. 4 lunches. So we're going to get the numbers way down in the cafeterias, take furniture out, spread out kids at tables and chairs. No field trips or overnight trips. Large gatherings need to move virtually over PA or on video. And no public access or reserving of our buildings or athletic fields for this year. Our return to learn plan includes these stages. You know, we're entering school at stage 1 in the blue. And as I announce over School Messenger and on our websites and social media changes, we'll talk about these stages and colors and where we are so that all of our families will understand. If I say stage 3, they can reference this chart and it'll be on many different places, even on posters in our schools. So again, think about these things as stage 1. This is standard life for this year in West ISD. And I can't stress enough, there's much more than just what I shared in that 30-page document. All right, because of time, I want to shift to Mrs. Cosda. Let me get off the share page here. I think a lot of questions can be answered by the principals sharing what a typical day will look like starting on August 17th. So I've asked Mrs. Cosda and Mr. Klander, 2 of the best principals in the history of the world, to share what a day will look like when your child arrives and then when they end. And I think this will help you hear about how it's going to roll out. So take it away, Mrs. Cosda. Let me take you off unmute.
Hi, everyone. And first, thank you for joining. I know y'all have tons and tons of questions. I'm going to answer as many as I can, but feel free to ask. If I don't answer your question, ask it in the chat and I can answer it as soon as I finish talking about the school day. And we've spent our entire summer working on plans to ensure the safety of your kids and while also allowing us to see them because we miss them. We have a plan. We're going to have adults, of course, on the sidewalk in the morning, greeting your kids and helping get them out of the cars. But we are going to have 2 adults at each entrance. If you're driving in front of the school, there are actually 3 different doors that you could enter through. One, most know as the pre-K and kindergarten entrance. That is where all pre-K and kindergarten students will enter the building. And we will have 2 adults there monitoring them, and they're going to go straight into the building and to their classrooms in pre-K and kindergarten. And the main entrance of the building that you walk into or you enter whenever you come any normal day of the school year, that is where all 1st, 4th, and 5th graders will enter. They're all going to walk in there and they're going to go straight to their classrooms. And then there's one more entrance in between that main entrance and like where our marquee is. There's one more entrance that we don't usually utilize in the morning. We're going to utilize that, and that actually goes directly onto the 2nd and 3rd grade hallway. So all 2nd and 3rd graders will walk in there and they'll go straight to their classrooms. This will just help us in the morning because it'll keep students from having cross traffic and passing one another. Everyone will go directly to their room. The teachers will be stationed at their door at 7:15 in the morning and they'll greet the students. So we won't have the holding rooms that we typically did of the cafeteria, the gym, the music room, and all of those places. Everyone will go straight to their homeroom with their class. We've restructured our conference periods and our specials times. Your student used to have 2 specials classes a day between computer, art, music, and PE. They went to 2 a day. They went to PE every day for 30 minutes, and then they went to either computer, art, or music for the other 30 minutes. This year, we're changing that, and they're going to have one time a day where they go for 50 minutes, and they'll go to PE 2 days a week, computer 1 day, art 1 day, and music 1 day. And this will cut our hallway traffic just about in half, because instead of going to 2 specials a day, they'll just go to 1 specials class a day. And we also had those in the past, they were back to back to back. So as our entire, say, first grade was picking up students, all 100 students, that's when an entire other grade level was in the hallway dropping their students off. We've changed those times a little bit, so there's 10 minutes in between each rotation. So 1 grade level will get picked up. The teachers that teach specials will have 10 minutes to sanitize things, get things clean. The hallways will be emptied, and then the next grade level will come into the hallway. That's going to help us quite a bit as well. And they're going to have lunch, as we've stated before, they're going to have lunch in the classrooms, but it's very important to us. Of course, the teachers need their lunch break and their lunchtime. So we have staff members, we figured it out, and we have staff members that are going to go to the teacher's classroom when it's their lunchtime. So say first grade has lunch at 11:05, there will be 4 adults that walk into those 4 first grade classrooms so that those 4 first grade teachers can leave and they can still go have lunch. And we'll stay in the room with the students, and cafeteria is going to bring the food around for the students that are eating food from the cafeteria. And then at dismissal time, we're also going to dismiss from the classrooms. It was very difficult, especially in our building. We had students in the hallway, gym, classrooms, cafeteria, just about every place in the world at dismissal time. So this year, all students are going to dismiss directly from their classroom. We'll still do the afternoon and pick up through the back line, and then we'll have bus on the front, but we'll utilize our radios to call for buses, and we'll have, of course, adults that don't have a classroom or gen ed classroom. They're going to be stationed in the hallway to make sure everybody goes where they need to, but we'll radio for buses and they'll go out the front door, or we're going to have a Google Doc for car riders, and that's going to be projected on the teacher screens where your kid's name will be typed as you're pulling into the parking lot, and we're going to quickly get them out the back doors to you. And we know some of this, we're going to have kinks that we need to work out in the plan, so we just would really appreciate the first week or so to give us some grace and patience as we work through the plan. Once the kids learn it, they've got it, and we know they can do it. Every kid can learn this plan. It's just that first few days of school, they're going to have to learn which door they need to enter and exactly what they need to do at these different times. I do know some have asked about morning drop-off. As you're dropping off in the morning, you pull up just as you did before. If you have 2 or 3 kids jumping out of your car, we're just going to teach them all which door to go to. We wouldn't want a parent with a kindergartner and a first grader and a third grader to have to stop 3 times along the way. So you'll just pull all the way up, unload kiddos, and we'll get them where they need to go. Mr. Truitt, if I missed anything or you think I missed something, I can definitely elaborate, but then I'll also look back at this chat and answer chat questions.
You rocked it. The only thing I had down on my notes, we're moving the bottle fillers at the elementary school, and we're going to really have to get our kids used to filling up a bottle instead of, slobbering and things on the water fountains. Those are a lot of germs and touching them all day. So we're installing bottle fillers. So we got to get used to that. So parents, think about a bottle for your kiddos to drink from and refill throughout the day. That's all I had down based on what you said, Mrs. Cosda. We'll look for elementary specific questions as Mr. Clander takes over for life at West Middle School High School. Take it away, Chuck.
All right, there we go. Just as Kaza said, we thank everybody for taking some time out of your busy schedules tonight to make sure you're on the same page with us. As we look at our days, we go through it for our middle school and high school kids. The biggest change will be that we can no longer have kids coming in very early in the building. I know we've had a lot of times, we've had students there at 6:30 in the morning when we wouldn't have class until 8 o'clock. So if you have siblings that are having to come for middle school athletics or things like that in the morning, we can't have you coming in beforehand. So that's going to be one of the biggest changes that a lot of people are going to have to get used to. Also, we're going to have some limits on where students are going to be coming in the building. We'll have our traditional 2 front doors where they'll also be getting all of their screening done on the middle school and the high school side. We'll have our traditional entrance for our bus students on the side where the baseball and softball fields are. And our last entrance point would be, I call it our ag and band hall hallway. That's that long hallway on the student parking lot side. For a long time, we've had students enter the building back through our athletic wing. And because of our checks, we'll only be able to use that for those middle school students or for those high school students that are coming in for early morning practices. So if you have a high school student, we need to start getting that word out to those folks at this time. A little bit different for us at our secondary campus compared to elementary school. You know, they won't go directly to the cafeteria. They would be going to their first period classes. If they need breakfast at that time, they can grab that and take it with them. We've talked to our cafeteria folks, and they're going to have everything ready to go. It's kind of a grab and go on a limited number of options. It won't have as many choices as we've had in the past, but this will kind of expedite getting folks where they need to go. Our first time in the mornings, kids can be going to that first period class. They can also be attending tutorials at those times if they need to. So we still have some opportunities for everybody to get the additional help if that's something that they need. As we go through our school day, if you've been in the building, you know that we have 6 different stairways. We're going to have our most interior stairwells being our upstairs and our most exterior stairwells being our downstairs. So that will really kind of control the flow of traffic. We have reduced the amount of time in between our classes. We went from 5 minutes to 4 minutes, and that 1 minute won't make that much of a difference because most of the classes are very close. But if it is something where it's going to help reduce the number of students that are hanging out in the hallways, we'll still be using our social distance ideas and things like that. So those would be some things that we'll really be focusing on. As Mr. Truitt said earlier, we've also changed our lunch schedules. Instead of having 2 lunches where we'd have all our middle school kids in one lunch and all of our high school kids in one lunch, we've now set it up so middle school will have the 2 lunch periods. We'll have 1 full grade in each and then a half of a grade, you know, as best we can balance those out so that we're able to have that social distancing in that large cafeteria area. We'll also do the exact same thing with our high school students. They will also have 2 lunches. They'll still have their 30-minute time, but it will be something where they'll be spaced out so we won't have large tables any longer. We'll have somewhere between 4 and 6 students at most at any of our tables. So that will be a difference for them. As well, talking with our cafeteria staff through our meal program, there will be fewer choices. So students, you know, will either have to be bringing what they have or they'll have to go with what the cafeteria has each day. One of the big changes that may also occur is we're going to have to limit the amount of traffic that we have in the building. So instead of having, you know, students that were waiting up front for foods and things like that, we're going to have to be trying to expedite that as much as we can. So again, parents, be aware of those type of things. One of the biggest changes that will occur will really be occurring at the end of the school day. Because we have 6 through 12 students, when we dismiss for the day, what we're going to do is we will be calling for all of our bus riders to exit. And once those students have cleared the building, we'll then release those middle school students that are walkers and riders. And the majority of our high school students are also car drivers. So then we'll release them at that time. Once again, we're going to work to reduce the number of students that are just hanging around waiting for friends and so forth. So we're going to try to get everybody moving where they need to go. We will have some opportunities for students to have after-school tutorials if they need some additional assistance. But those are some things that we'll set those times up with the teachers because they also have their remote learning time from 3:15 to 4 o'clock each day. We want to try to keep our day as normal as possible, but we do know there are going to have to be some situations where students are going to have to be aware of this and parents are going to have to be aware of this, that when you come in, you are going to have to be there in time to get your temperature check before you go to class, or we're going to ask that, you know, if you're sick, you stay home, because if you come in a bad situation, then we have to look at things in the worst possible light. So parents, we're going to ask that you help us with those type of things, and then just being aware of those day-to-day operations of students being coming in with their mask or their face shields or whatever the case may be. Those are going to be things that are going to help us to the best that we can. Again, Mr. Truitt, if there's something else we need to discuss, let me know at this time.
All right, sorry. I was reading chat questions, my bad. I didn't get to the last few. Sorry, guys. Well, let me have Miss Adams maybe reply to those while I'm talking. A couple of things. We're bringing paper towels back to the restrooms. I think you'll all agree we need to have those. Bottle fillers, I'll mention those again. We already had them at the new middle school, high school. Going to have to use those more religiously with turning off the water fountain pieces. I know Miss Adams said this, but I don't want to lose sight of the awesome news that at grade 6 through 12, we're moving one-to-one with Chromebooks. I mean, this is a big step for West ISD. And if we had to do a little shout out right now on our Zoom tonight, that's something to celebrate. And especially in the future, as we try to move it down to the elementary grades more than the 10 we have per classroom right now. It's just an exciting time to be in West, even with some of the things we've shared tonight. We're going to make the most of it. And we know our kids need devices to meet some of the challenges we just mentioned in our presentations. But no, Mr. Klander, you did a great job. We're going to get a lot of questions, I know, about breakfast and lunch, transitions, arrival and dismissal. There's way more guidance in the 30-page document that I keep referencing that gives you kind of an overview on things. If you'll go back to that and just make sure everybody knows where that is. One last glance here at our website, and then I'll wrap us up. So close this out, go back to our site. It's this one with the big WT on it. It's actually 31 pages. I was off page, but you can see I've spent a lot of time typing in here and trying to provide as much information as I possibly can. Everything we've shared tonight on the other documents is in this document. And if it's not in here, we can add it. So what I want to do at this point is challenge you guys to call, come by and see me, email, respond to any school messenger, whatever you want to do to continue to ask questions. And maybe you've seen something that another school district is trying that you think would be a good thing for West. So I'd love to hear about it. I'm not about to say I have all the answers right now on July the 14th, but as we move closer, we want to get this document as accurate as possible for our plan for our students, staff, and families. But a lot of information in here, some things still missing. You'll see some yellow things that I'm going to add some more things to, but a lot of good information in here. I can't stress enough, if you came in late on our presentation tonight, that we're expected to hear from Governor Abbott in the next 48 hours with new information about if we're starting on time and if Texas is going into another closure period. Whatever he decides, I know will affect this plan and August 17th possibly. We know we're going to hear from the UIL about cross-country, marching band, football, and volleyball. So the minute I hear these things, I'll film more videos, post more stuff on social media, get on the website, and send out school messengers so that you can see and hear what's going on. I do want to challenge you to not always go to social media that are not West ISD related things for information. What you see from other sites may not be what we're thinking or planning, especially if there's options involved. So I double dog dare you to always go to the Truitt stuff. So you know it's coming straight from me, whether it's a video or a post, so that you can hear what we're thinking for the community of West. Because what we're doing in West may be different than what Dallas ISD is doing in an urban area with a lot more cases. So please, please, please go to us for your information. Want to end by saying, unless Ms. Adams has any more chats to share, did I cut us off too soon? Let me stop the thing there.
Mr. Truitt, I think we got some, but if we missed anything, please re-chat so we can answer you really quickly.
If you didn't get a chance to chat, I'll even open it up if you want to unmute and ask us a question, or if you'd rather not, and just email me. You can email back to the school messenger I sent out that you got tonight's Zoom for. and I'll answer it. I just didn't want to leave any stone unturned. If you have something that you would like to ask or share, that's what this is for. This was the best way we could get everybody together. At one point tonight, we had over 170 on this Zoom, which is an incredible number of engaged families that want to hear how we're going to reopen school. Looks like Ms. Costa is raising her hand. My bad. Ms. Costa? Sorry, I'm clicking and it's not turning your mute.
I just had a few that had emailed me or messaged me privately, but all with a couple of the same question. So I thought I would answer it because that means quite a few must have that same question. Quite a few have asked about pre-K, and I know that's hard. I know you have pre-K babies you're dropping off for the first time, and especially if it's your first baby or your only baby, it's hard to drop them off at the door. But know that even if it's your first time to do it, it's not ours, and we've done it tons and tons of times, and this is my 20th or 21st year to do it. And I promise we have lots of adults in the building. We have 60 women working there that are all moms, and so, or most of them. And so we're going to treat your child just as if they're our own, and we're going to make sure they get to the place that they're supposed to go and they get loved on all day long. So I know that's a hard thing for pre-K parents, but know that we're taking care of them. And several did ask me privately about school supplies. We did not adjust the school supply list this year because you had already ordered online, or many people had ordered the online prepackaged ones, so we couldn't change the list at that point after the prepackaged had been ordered. If there are things that we thought needed to be ordered, Mr. Truitt and Mr. McCaskill were great, and we had 2 grade levels that had not ordered, like, say, pencil boxes for individualized school supplies, so they took care of that for us. If there's anything you think your kid needs to have to be extra safe, if you want to provide an extra pencil box or anything like that, feel free to do so, but know that you don't have to go above and beyond. We're going to take care of them at the building and within the school day. And Mr. Truitt, I don't know if you wanted to reiterate that. They also helped us with headphones or earbuds, depending on the grade level. We know different ages can handle different things, but every kid will have their own either headphones or earbuds because we didn't want them sharing those. They will all have a pencil box or a pencil bag so that they don't have to share supplies. Those are all just things that we're kind of thinking through and taking care of.
Thank you. If there's something we need, and I even saw a few chat questions, if we consider purchasing some other things, we'll look at those as well. There's still time. So again, in closing, thank you for being here. Check that website. I've kept sharing with you guys because I'm going to keep unloading documents on there. And again, that's a page that's on every campus page as well. I'll link it to social media so folks that couldn't attend tonight can see the different things that we have planned. I can't stress enough, I'm in touch with superintendents all the time, and the documents we have out, this is early. I only know of 2 other districts that have documents that are published, and so I know it says draft, but we're ahead of the game in thinking about what we want to do for West. I know, again, that we'll add some things and change some things, but we're on the right track to make sure that, again, students and staff have a great start to the school year. So again, make sure you're looking to see what we're going to hear new from Abbott and UIL this week with anything we need to do to adapt our plan. We'll still host Thursday night. I don't want to cancel that because we'll use it to share updates based on what we hear this week from the different entities. And the meeting will look a little different if you want to join us for that one as well. So I'll send out a reminder about that through School Messenger. So thank you for attending. Thank you to our presenters, Mr. Clander, Coach Woodard, Ms. Costa, Mrs. Adams. You did a great job. Families, again, let's stay positive. We are the district of grit and greatness. Let's keep doing great things for our kids. Add us to your prayer lists. We need patience and understanding and guidance right now as we do what's best for our kids. So thank you. Have a good evening. Take care, guys. Go Trojans and Lady Trojans.